Hello. So I thought I'd make a video about Dvæeorh, or against the dwarf. And this charm was made during the Christian times of the Anglo-Saxons, and I thought I'd do a little video about it because I've been thinking about it. So to our pre-Christian ancestors, dwarves were not a negative thing. It wasn't until after Christianity they were seen as a negative entity. But before, to our pre-Christian pagan ancestors, they understood that dwarves were our emotions. And after Christianity, dwarves became confused with what we would call fairy folk, or nature spirits and these type of things. So same with elves, that's what they became also after the Christianization. But before that they were not, they were different. So the dwarves were our emotions. And this is clear, you read the Voluspa or anything, it's all human natures, right? All their names represent human natures, like emotions and that. Now emotions are very powerful. You take two plants, you treat them equal, and you give them equal water and nutrition and everything. With one plant you talk positive, the other plant you talk negative. The one plant will get weak or die, and the other plant will be healthy and prosperous. So we know that our emotions have great power of energy. And to our ancestors, our emotions had the power, when they were aligned with the three minds, to manifest a reality. That is why the dwarves make Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and all the things, right? Freya's necklace and all these things, they're all made by the dwarfs. The gods would not have their magical tools and that if it was not for the dwarves, because the dwarves manifest these things, and the dwarves project our reality. They live in our subconscious and unconscious minds, and that is why they are under the mountains or in the caves, right, or in the mines. They are in the darkness because they live in the darkness. They don't live in your conscious mind, they live in the sub and unconscious minds. And the thing is, when we were converting to Christianity, what were we doing? We were losing the alignment between the elves, dwarves, and the gods, between our three minds, subconscious, unconscious, and conscious minds. And therefore, the dwarves manifest illness, because if the dwarves are not being kept in line, they will manifest back pain, they will manifest cancer, they will manifest diseases that will kill you, all sorts of things, because they need to be kept in line. And that is why our ancestors did ritual. If you did ritual, the dwarves would look at you as if you were a god, as if you were, Odin or one of the gods, right? So, but when we stopped doing ritual and we started going to Christianity, out of the blue, our folk had many problems because our emotions were not healthy and our three minds were not in line anymore. So then we had all these problems going on. So the Christians, because they still believed in dwarves and that, because it was newly Christianized, they would say things like, oh, these dwarves, we've got to do Christian spells and make things up against these dwarves and whatever, right? So that is where this whole poem against the dwarf comes from. And I just thought I'd explain why it is against a dwarf, when normally a dwarf is a good thing, not a bad thing. The dwarves are your emotions. And when you keep them in line, as we say today, keep your emotions under control. And the way our ancestors before Christianity would do that is through ritual. Regular daily ritual would keep your emotions under control, so you were constantly manifesting with your dwarves, your emotions, what you wanted for yourself. And so yeah, that is the whole thing about that, right? Because at this time it was during the Christianization, or shortly after being Christianized, maybe it wasn't that long after, maybe 100 years or so. But so they still had this kind of understanding a little bit at this time that, hey, the dwarves have power, and they understood that the reason they were getting sick was because their dwarves were acting up and out of a line. The dwarves were rebelling, the emotions. And we know today millions of doctors all over the world say, hey, you're sick because you're stressed. You have back pain because you're stressed. You're always weak and ill because you're not mentally healthy. Your emotions are, you're stressed out or whatever, or you're depressed and you become sick. That is the dwarves making you sick because we've lost ritual and all these things. And as an example, people feel lost. We lost ritual and people began to feel lost in life. And therefore, the dwarves act up because the dwarves want to have the connection of the three minds. And yeah, so that's just a little bit. This charm never worked. You could use it all you want. It will never work. It is just a bullshit charm that was made up in Christian times. But yeah, that's just a little bit about it. And how our pagan ancestors understood it was the dwarves while they were sick. But they didn't understand how to heal themselves, because in order to do that, they would have had to go back to doing ritual and aligning their three minds. Tus.